So I was listening more to the Creature from Jekyll Island, which is about the creation of the Federal Reserve. Yeah, and for, going way back, the UN and the Federal Reserve, the global elite, were getting together, and they created the International Monetary Fund, which has been just bankrupting a lot of countries. But more than that, it's been taking from us to do it. Of course, they take from us for everything. This is such a game. These are talk about deception, literal, and it talks about this in the book, that they see themselves as the wolves in sheep's clothing. Yeah, it's very, very evil. But we're in socialized medicine. I read this article back from 2018 from PubMed, from this doctor. He was like a nephrology, neurosurgeon, something like that. And he's like 80 years old now, and he remembers how healthcare, and that's what I've been saying. I remember too, and I'm not that old, but I mean, I'm not as old as him, but I remember when it was so much better. Because here's the thing, and what the socialists, your AOC, your Bernie Sanders, your nursing unions, what they love to say is, no, we need socialized medicine. Well, we're already in it. But they always say the free market doesn't work. They've never given it a try. They really haven't, because you got the UN and you've got the Federal Reserve there, so you already got those odds against you. But even with that, there was a time when doctors, when they are working on making their own decisions and not everything handed down to them from the CDC and public health, which, by the way, public health is also always used when they brought it into Russia, communism. It is. That's because they want to keep you safe. It's about public health and safety. So look, if you need the government to keep you safe, then you don't want freedom. It can't be both ways. But look around us. There was a time healthcare did not invade our life. Healthcare was not the ongoing discussion day in and day out, whether you were a nurse or not. Now it is like, you can see what a tyrant it is. And what I see more than anything is quality of care is gone, which is why there's poor outcomes. But they'll lie and say there's good outcomes. But socialism isn't capable of good outcomes. There's too many times in history. And besides, the socialists like AOC and Bernie Sanders, really, they're communists, okay? They are. They just can't say that. It doesn't look good, because most people know what communism means, and it's a scary thing. So they can't come out and say it, but people may have forgotten or may not know. Bernie Sanders looked up to Fidel Castro, okay? They all look up to these communist leaders, but then so does the World Economic Forum. They love this stuff. They're sick and twisted. They are. So our healthcare system is it's going into communism. That's why it's getting worse. It's why they bring in, this article went on to talk about how they bring in all this extra paperwork for doctors to do, because they take everything away from doctors. No, you have to follow what the CDC says. You have to follow what public health says. Yeah, where there was a time where things weren't all done in the hospital, like local doctors just could do what they felt was in the best interest of their patient and prescribe this and that, and not all this bullshit over them. But this is what socialism does. Socialism brings in a bunch of welfare programs, and that is not what America is about. Because when you leave it up to the free enterprise will work itself out. It will. It will. Because then there's many people that are in abundance, money-wise and many other ways, and doctors can charge what they want to charge. And then because they have an abundance of money, and it's not all being dictated by this regulation and that, and the government and the bureaucrats and this paperwork, then what ends up happening is the doctors have more success too, just in their life and in wealth, all of that. And then they give back. That's what used to go on. That's what this 80-year-old was saying. That's how it used to be. And that's actually the way our country was supposed to operate. You leave it to the free market to iron everything out. But you get these socialists that come in, okay, and say, no, these poor people need help. These poor people need help. These poor kids need to change their gender. I mean, they grab on to just all this stuff. And it's like one welfare system after another. And then what they do is they just create money out of thin air, and then we have to pay for it. So it is, we are so close to that communist system. I don't think, and most people don't realize it because they're so willing to say whatever the government tells me, whatever the hospital tells me that I should teach workers is what I'm going to teach. Even though you could tell they're like, I don't ask questions. Like I had a trainer, it's like, I just don't ask questions. It's like, yeah, maybe you should though. You're a nurse. I think you probably should. I didn't say that because he's not on the floor. But, I mean, really, this is part of the problem. People just go along with their dictators. CDC is not in the Constitution. Neither is public health. Public health is a red flag altogether because public health is always what they use to get people on board with the public health. We have to keep you safe, the government agenda. Yeah, you don't want the government to keep you safe. You don't want to. Do you really want your life to revolve around constant going to doctors? No. And all that science has created is a bunch of machines to test you for shit that then they say, oh, we don't know. We don't know. We can just treat it with we can just control symptoms. Now, I think the doctors left to their own devices, going back to the way it used to be, then you will see better outcomes. But the system we're under now, no way. No chance for better outcomes. There's going to be worse because that's what communism ultimately brings. It's the number one killer. And it is the reason why, and it's going on in other countries, Canada, it's the reason why they have their MAID program, which is medically assisted in dying. And it's not just for people in hospice. It's for people that are depressed. The state doesn't want to care for them. That's how shitty socialists are. Because when they get to the late stages, it's really just communism. And those people are of no use to them because they can't get out and be a workhorse for them. That's always the reason they kill those people. They kill the disabled. They kill the feeble-minded, anybody like that, because they want the workhorses. Who wants the workhorses? Well, the wolves in sheep's clothing at the Federal Reserve, the UN, and the World Economic Forum, who have been just living off of our taxes, basically. And that's why none of these social services that are created get any better. Nothing ever changes because the money, it's all the politicians that get involved in this. They've done it for years to us. And so if we need to pull ourselves back from this system, okay? There's some people that think, oh, there's those out there that can't handle it. Well, too bad. Too bad. You can't handle seeing the truth and knowing the truth. That's too bad. I mean, a bunch of us in America don't particularly want to go living under a communist rule, all because a few sensitive people would rather have their safety, which really isn't safe when you're dealing with a socialized system, but they want the government to give them health and safety. Doesn't that seem a little juvenile? Yeah, I think we should all grow up, and we need we need just healthcare systems to go away. Like this whole idea that they're building up everywhere. I mean, in some cases. But what they're doing is they're dictators. They're dictators to employees. It's unsafe, but they don't care. They have a lot of power now. So these people need to go to jail. I keep saying it. But for those of you that want to have some government like tell you what to do, yeah, then you probably shouldn't want to live in America, which is probably why you all hate it. Those socialists anyway. But I think it's more you don't know what you're dealing with. You don't understand what socialism is, and what socialism is ultimately communism. Always is, always leads there, and ultimately that leads to genocide. So let's stop this train wreck before it goes any further. And these CEOs, these heads of these corporations, all of these bad actors that did this need to go to jail. And yeah, most of the federal government needs to be basically dismantled.